Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Reason Reborn. This is episode. Oh my God, I've lost count. We've done this
Probably.
many, so I can lose count. Number six. Oh wow. Somehow we're still on the internet, regardless of what the government wants to do. And it's so funny because as soon as you said something about that CNN thing, what happens to the tab I click? They play a video out of nowhere. It wasn't even a video; it was a picture, and the picture turned into a video. You are the Fox News of the
No.
left. God damn it. We were just talking about that before we started. Anyway, this week we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about dirty old men again because it seems to be all the rage in politics, Hollywood, whatever. Everybody wants to grab somebody and do some foul things, and they try to justify it for no reason. We're going to talk about, of course, the consumer watchdog battle, which is getting pretty interesting. I found that very funny. We're going to also talk about how crazy old men who once admitted to something decides now that apparently what he admitted to was a conspiracy theory. And we all know who that crazy old man is.
It's Megas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just found out today on Facebook that my asshole ID says that I'm 74% asshole, and that what was the quote it said? I don't need you to think that I'm an asshole. I want you to be 100% sure that I'm an asshole. So, um, that says something about me that I guess I gotta own in a bit too.
Slap that shit on the shirt, bro.
Yeah, honestly, I think I am. I'm gonna go to Teespring and order that shit up. Have it made. That is actually a good T-shirt to have. But and we're going to also talk about net neutrality as well, which is a very important thing as far as consumers are concerned. You guys need to really, really pay attention to this battle because it's going to help set a precedent as well as the whole consumer watchdog fight that's going on. But anyway, let's start off with Robert Moore, our favorite old man who we don't want sitting at the kids' table. Um, so he did a 30-minute speech where he basically defended himself by claiming that the allegations made towards him are false and malicious. Not only that, they're completely similar to what people are doing to Trump in the 2016 election with the Russian probe, and how basically it's just the left trying to divert from the issues and not giving the people what they want, which is better policy on taxes, better military, a better health care, better immigration laws, and stopping abortion and transgender rights. He actually made a big point to say that he doesn't believe that transgender should be recognized and that he hates that there's terminology that's out there for them, and he feels like basically they don't deserve the rights that people are stopping Trump from taking from them. So it was a very telling speech because he just basically threw blame at the media, basically saying that they're just trying to get me, and this ain't true, and all of that. What is your take on his whole crazy speech?
It is indicative of the age we're living in, isn't it? This guy, it sounded to me like he was denying all of them in their totality, right? Like just claiming that they were all bullshit. They were all fake fake news shit. Like this is very out of control, and it's what I had been talking about. My fear of Trump is this notion that like truth doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't nothing matters, nothing's real. Like this shaking in the foundation of what we can actually believe in. This guy's crazy. I find the
Yes.
focus on the transgender thing a little not surprising since he's the one with the fucking Ten Commandments and shit, right?
Yeah, it's very stereotypical of him because it definitely speaks to that. Southern Bible thumping, I don't believe in anything but America and God reputation that people will always give to Alabama. And I'm sure there are plenty of fine people in the state of Alabama, but got a lot of people like him that exists that
Yeah,
you know represents Alabama too, unfortunately.
yeah, it's stereotypical, and while not surprising, it's just kind of it goes back to what I'd been saying before about your religious ideas mattering as far as politics go, and I don't like how people pretend that they don't. This guy is a perfect example of that. He has power, and he has clear social ideas that must be rooted in religion. Because you won't find most non-religious people caring this much about that type of issue. And he mentioned some pretty specific stuff too, like them not being allowed, not wanting them in the military, for example. I mean, he just went and attacked a whole group of people. We could talk about that, I guess, but I don't want that to get lost because I feel like in all that craziness of him denying everything, in the back of my mind, I failed to notice for a second just how hard he was going at the transgender people.
Yeah, and that was kind of weird. It was like this was. I don't. You think this was his way of trying to like? Well, the whole speech was basically him deflecting the
Right.
charges against him. But do you feel like this was the moral outcry part that he wanted to really make an emphasis on to grab people's attention? Because say what you will about super religious people, even they have an aversion to people doing things to children. I mean, it's kind of a natural reaction that human beings as a whole, nobody likes people committing crimes against children. Hell, um, I know you don't follow sports, but this coach was going to be hired at a college football team, and he ended up the college ended up having to pull his job from him because he happened to be a part of a staff that did a big cover up where this one of the coaches abused children at the Penn State University, and apparently he was named in a deposition that he witnessed it and didn't say anything. And we don't know if this is true, but people were incensed that they went to hire him, and they protested. Alumni protested, and he got his job taken just for being named as a possible conspirator. I mean, so people don't take kindly to people. Sexual assault nobody likes, but when you do it against kids, that's even yeah. And I just feel like this was his way of trying to like say, well, there's nastier things than me. It's transgender people.
And it felt like a really ineffective strategy to try to divert attention to that because even people who don't like transgender people, like I'm sure there are people who are very passionate about that and like the bathroom issue and the military thing, but at worst, I feel like they're just kind of mildly annoyed or, they don't believe that transgenderism is a thing because, they don't believe in science, I guess. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Uh, I don't feel like they're
It's
as
against God,
passionate.
sir. It's against God.
I don't feel like they're as passionate about that issue as they are about touching up kids. Like, it's not, if you wanted to divert attention away, that wasn't the topic to do it. It was never going to take attention away from that situation. Period.
No, I
People aren't
think
that motivated or animated about that.
yeah, and I think for most people, it just highlighted like a huge vein of bigotry within this guy. Like everybody pretty much had that opinion of him anyway, but now it's just like front and center. This is the type of person. And then your opponent, he's comfortable with having transgender rights, which totally makes your rant look even more
Right.
bigotous. I do find it funny though that this guy, for all his bluster, he refuses to get into a debate with his opponent.
Mm.
And I find that telling of how strongly he actually feels about how he would actually fare if he actually had to go one-on-one about the issues with someone.
If he's concerned that he wouldn't fare well, then at least he's smart enough to know that. Guys, even aside from just revealing his bigotry, it just made him look childish and petty. The one thing I thought when I read that. Like, man, you're really trying to divert attention to this. not working, and now you just look stupider. Not just like as a bigot, but you just look dumb doing this.
You know, maybe we're the stupid ones because, again, look who was elected president. For all of our talk of like how this is wrong and all of that, I mean, look who skirted into the highest office in the land with the same behavior.
And yeah, if that's another point that made me really uncomfortable when I read about this is just these people starting to try and emulate Trump. Not that, lying in politics is new, but the way they are going about it is feeling somewhat Trumpian.
Yeah, because it's not just lying; it's you're being very hostile. You're being disrespectful. You're
Acting like the
being,
news is all bullshit.
yeah, like you're dismissing major issues of other people's right. You're willing to basically step on other people's rights in order to get what you want and to make fun of it at that. It's just like, how fucking childish are you? But people are eating that up, and I seriously don't understand it.
Are they eating it up? I guess I haven't noticed.
Well,
Maybe
the
I'm
only
going
reason
too
I
quick
say
to read the
that,
sentence.
I'm a fool. I will peek at his Twitter more than often. I'll peek at other people like Tommy Lahren and all the people who defend him. I'll peek at their like Twitter
Are we
timelines
talking
and
about Trump?
newsfeed. Yeah,
Oh, okay, I thought we were talking about more. Yeah, definitely people
no,
are more
I don't
Trump.
think Moore knows what a computer is. He probably would
Okay.
shoot it and claim the devil was in it, knowing him. Um, but no, it's just like you see people like they like the other day when he did the whole tweet about uh, the Time magazine thing. I honestly saw somebody said, to be fair, he was right. Tom didn't admit that they didn't call him, and I was like, what? It's like you so want this guy is so over in your mind that you're claiming that, yeah, he didn't lie about Time not calling him because Time didn't say we didn't call him, so clearly Tom must have called him because of that. What? Like, the logic when it comes to the defense of him, the logic or lack of it, I should say, this stupefies me to a point where I literally have migraines reading the news sometimes. Which, just before we continue, let me just move to one of the other articles. Prime example. So Trump decides, like in an interview where he's defending Rob Moore, to mention that he thinks that the Access Hollywood tape, in which he's famously been seen talking about grabbing by the pussy, suggesting that there may have been some foul play on the part of Access Hollywood. Basically, he thinks the tape seems kind of suspect, like it was doctored somehow to make him sound like he was saying that, and that there's a conspiracy behind this, and that they went out like who believes this type of stuff? What? Could you help me, please, and explain to me what makes a human being want to believe someone who talks about stuff like that?
Yeah, you're looking at the wrong fucking guy. I mean, to your point earlier, somehow we elected him president, and this isn't new behavior on his part at all. But yeah, as articles have mentioned, he didn't deny this shit at all. Really, I think he apologized even when this first happened. So I guess he learned something. This goes back to what I was saying about Moore. This idea that doesn't exist, that we can fuck around with reality all we want. Like, I haven't seen the reaction to this, but I'm sure there's at least a small portion of people who are like, yeah, I knew it was bullshit the whole time. Like, he has a set of followers who will believe him no matter what. And I think he understands that. He doesn't feel like he's bound by the laws of reality at this point.
It just really, really bothers, because it's like you've known me for a while, and I've always had a like kind of negative opinion of the current state of people's, the way people behave, which I shouldn't, but I'm sorry, shit like this justifies me being the cranky old man who shakes his fists at clouds when it comes to stuff like that. Because it's like, who you can't make this shit up.
I think what really depressed me is after I read about that, I wasn't surprised. And that's where I'm at in my life. I'm not surprised when the president does something like this. It's
And that's
it's
so sad. It's like, this should not be normal life. How is this normal life?
like every time I
Um,
see something like that, I'm like, this. When are we gonna wake up? This dream is lasting a weirdly long time.
yo, shout out to UTX, the god. He had a perfect tweet I saw this morning where he was like, he was talking about the Pocahontas thing, which just really quick, Trump made a Pocahontas joke in front of Native Americans towards Elizabeth Warren during the Native American ceremony, honoring them. And just for added flavor, he stood in front of a picture, a painting of Andrew Jackson, who's most famously known for being the only president to actually clear the entire national debt and to go after banks and their practices. As a general who performed admirably in the War of 1812, and most notoriously the author of The Trail of Tears, where he commissioned the United States Army to round up all the Indians, put them into not only just put them into the reservations, but to also distribute blankets that were infected with smallpox to whittle down their numbers. Yes, people, an American president committed genocide against a race.
Yeah.
And he does all of this, and Trump somehow found a way to take all this and say, you know what, this is a slam dunk for me to do. Like all of this right now, I'm gonna go ahead and make this joke because this is gonna be the greatest thing. People are gonna laugh. These Native Americans are gonna think I'm so funny.
So with this and that whole, I don't know if the Hollywood Access tape shit is real. It's another example of me not being able to tell, like, is this fucking guy crazy or is he stupid? I get the
I think
line
column
becomes
A and B mix very well with this guy.
maybe I'm trying too hard to like establish a clear line and put him on one side. I guess he's like right down the middle because every time he pulls a stunt like this, I'm like, I can't tell if you understood how stupid that was, or if you're like an evil mastermind and you're doing it on purpose, like, or you're just insane.
And see, I think that's the problem that, me and you are reasonably rational human beings, and we seek to understand what makes other people tick. I'm sorry, I have to like wholeheartedly admit, I don't know how to call this motherfucker anymore. I am just totally daily dumbfounded by his behavior. It's like UTX Cigar said, it's like somebody turned on a TV show and put it on a channel that none of us can turn off at all. We're stuck on this one show and this one channel perpetually watching this shit go on because it's not real life. It's just fucking somebody's playing a joke on us, a serious joke on us.
I think
And
that's a good way to put it. It feels very surreal. And I saw somebody, and this goes to how rabid his support base is. Somebody had criticized Warren for, I guess associating herself with the Native Americans and stuff, using that to her advantage, essentially justifying Trump's Pocahontas joke. If you want to talk about her using, this Native American heritage or whatever she's got going on, fine, that's a discussion you can have, but it wouldn't absolve Trump of this behavior, no matter where you land on that judgment of Warren. That's a separate issue, and people need to stop obfuscating and fucking trying to direct attention elsewhere. Even if you had to talk about that, it's not relevant to Trump's behavior. It's still fucking inappropriate, especially for a president. Again, I'm certainly willing to have that debate about Warren's association with Native Americans, but it's not irrelevant right now.
no, it's not. It's like anytime he does anything offensive, everybody just needs to make it seem like it's nothing. And it's like you're offended, we're offended, you're offended. You shouldn't, like, it's just like I really don't
the
know.
person who made that argument was saying that the Native Americans don't like Elizabeth Warren for using their culture or whatever, and that they got the joke and they liked it and whatever. Like some bold claims, I thought, but again, people need to stop trying to direct arguments toward other arguments that don't matter. You can have them, but
Yeah, like
just because you can have them
such,
doesn't make them important.
yeah, it's ridiculous. One more old dirty old man article. So Nancy Pelosi came out again after she a couple of days ago when asked about her opinion of John Conyers, the Democratic senator from Michigan, who has been accused by several women of lewd behavior, sexual harassment. That she actually believes one of the victims. Apparently, she talked to one of these victims, and she said that she believes exactly what the lady told her. And she went on to talk about how there's a lot of things within the system that kind of impedes these victims from coming forward and speaking with ethics committees about things and how that needs to change and they need to redo some things, restructure some things. A lot of people are looking at it as her kind of backpedaling off of calling John Conyers an icon, saying that she was like quick to really um, defend him and refuse to criticize him for what he did. Do you think that she would, by saying that about him, that she was just trying to diffuse the issue and avoid criticizing a constituent, or how do you feel about that whole situation, especially with since if you don't know, John Conyers did a lot of things for civil rights over his tenure and things like that.
Where I gotta say, after I had read that, I really wasn't sure what to think about it. I found that kind of, I had a hard time understanding her motivations because she really did flip it like a day. Like she said something praiseworthy, I think, like on Sunday, and then yesterday, you know, flipped and said, "I believe the accusers and whatnot." So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. But that does admittedly look kind of bad. It does look like backpedaling on some level. I mean, like you said, Conyers has done stuff. So I guess like it's
Yeah,
you should still judge him however you're going to judge him. That somewhat aside, I guess it can play in his favor. It's like a character judgment, I guess. But either he did something wrong to those women or he didn't, and you should have based your thoughts on that. I
yeah,
also wonder what she claimed to have like learned from these women that she talked to that made her change her mind like that.
yeah. It is pretty interesting. It does seem like she kind of just did a two-step around that. I've always been of the mind that you can celebrate great things that people do. You can applaud them for it, but just keep in mind that they are human. And I think that's one of the things that in this whole situation where you got people coming out in defense of certain people, be it Robert Moore, Al Franken, John Conyers, things like that. Some of the people in Hollywood who've been accused of things. I try, like, I know for myself, I try not to deify people who, like, I like their work or I like their politics and things like that, because when you make that person like that much special in your eyes, it kind of becomes hard to realize that, yeah, as a human being, they're capable of doing some things. They're not perfect.
Right.
It's like you kind of realize, it's kind of a finding out Santa isn't real type of moment for a lot of people. But on the worst level, because you so resistant to that idea that your hero has dirt on him. It's just like I remember years ago, this guy wrote a book about Martin Luther King that he got blasted for because he had stories about how apparently MLK had other women that he would sleep with around the country while he was out, fighting for civil rights. And people were just like incensed and enraged that this guy would actually write something like this about Martin Luther King. But I had to sit and think about it myself. I was like, Yeah, he was a very good man. He did, a lot to help push this country in a better direction when it comes to equality and rights and things like that. That being said, he could be capable of doing that because I don't know what he did in his down. It's like none of us really knows what he did in his downtime. We weren't always, no one was around him 24/7 to know his life, to know his habits. Coretta probably knew him the best, and even she wasn't around him all the time. So the possibility is out there. The Bill Cosby thing, people got mad at me when I was like, yeah, there's a possibility that this dude has done this, especially since he's been seen in interviews joking about drugging women.
It's not a good look.
No, it's not a good look. It makes you look suspect, Yeah. So got to be careful, people. Don't just come out wholehearted when you hear something like this. You can be supportive. You can like, you know what? I hope these things aren't true because for as long as I've known John Connors, he's been an upstanding guy, but this is very troubling. And hopefully we can figure out what's going on, and hopefully it's not a bad issue for him. But if it is, he has to reap what he sows,
Yeah, a couple of important points there. This idea with hero worship, people need to embrace the ideas that these people represent more than the people themselves. So let's say we find out that MLK like murdered kids or some shit like that.
Oh,
I'm sure there's going to be some people who will talk shit about the whole civil rights movement, but regardless of what kind of person MLK was, the civil rights movement needed to happen. Having equal rights for all citizens is a value that we should have objectively, and there's nothing wrong. It's not dependent on what kind of person he was. Same thing with this Conyers guy. Whatever he did that was good for civil rights, those were good, independent of him. It was good that he did them. But you don't need to tie those things to him so deeply that if he ever fucks up, it calls all that shit into question. You should be able to distinguish between the fallible human who can fuck up and whatever idea they were pushing. The idea should be strong enough to stand by itself. That's one important point. So another thing with her, I mean, I don't want to jump on her too bad, but it really didn't look great. You should have just withheld judgment then. The fact that you got to flip in the span of a day means that you jumped too fast to start talking shit. And she already doesn't have like a super good I was about to say population. What the fuck?
No, I know what you mean. She's not that popular.
Yeah, she's not very popular. She's not very popular with a lot of people. I guess because of her politician ways. So that wasn't good for her in particular.
Yeah, she still takes a lot of shit for how she fumbled the ball during Obama's administration when they had, the House and the Senate, and they just couldn't come together to help push some of the agendas that Obama was trying to do because, she kind of, I won't say she divided the leadership, but I guess people felt like she kind of didn't push hard enough for certain things. I mean, to be fair, she has been a really good politician for the most part. But when she was made the Speaker of the House, her tenure wasn't the best. And eventually, the Democrats lost both the House and the Senate and while she was up there. So she kind of takes a lot of heat for that, too.
Before we try to remember if you saw the story of these that organization that tried to plant a fake Roy Moore story.
Yeah, I was just about to talk about James O'Keefe, the head of Project Veritas, which is a organization that basically likes to send out operatives or whatever he wants to call them to try to discredit the media and show how biased they are. He's a staunch conservative, which makes his whole media witch hunt bullshit because generally speaking, he only does it to try to make news outlets that have an anti conservatism lean or that he feels like are unfair and unbiased in the reporting of stuff as far as conservative and liberal news goes. So to make a long story short, he sent the lady into the Washington Post to discuss how she was basically sexually assaulted and was forced to have sex with Rob Moore, and he had to ask her to get an abortion because he got her pregnant and all types of stuff. So Washington Post, being the fake news that they are, decided to do investigations and look into this matter and see whether or not her story was credible. After investigation, they found her story not to be credible and decided not to take what she'd said and use it. A few days later, pretty much they got caught mentioning that they actually did send her in there as an undercover agent to try to suss out the fake news that is what the Washington Post, and the whole thing basically got exposed in the news, and now James O'Keefe is on the defensive trying to validate his reasons for the sting operations and trying to make it look like he did nothing wrong. I'll let you speak on this because I know you really want to speak on this right here.
I don't know that I want to, but first of all, applause to the Washington Post. I had paused because I was trying to remember if it was them or the Times. I feel like while this is praiseworthy, it's not going to gain them the respect they should get from people who are embracing this whole fake news thing. That's one issue. Imagine if this had worked, though. I mean, this would only further damage people's already low trust in mainstream media. And aside from that, it would damage the legitimacy of many of these women's accusations toward all these high-powered men. If this had actually gone through and worked with a recently popular news organization like the Post, this could have been bad in many ways. Like this dude tried to pull isn't fucking cute. I mean, it's fine to test the rigor of our news organizations. I guess I want them to be trustworthy, but I don't know that this was, like, morally speaking, I don't agree with what he was trying to pull here. It's unacceptable.
No, he shouldn't have. Yeah, he shouldn't have tried to use this situation. Something that's really serious right now. The sexual assault thing is, it's a big issue right now. A lot of people are getting accused. A lot of people have to come to their defense. A lot of women out there who are trying to share their story, that are being criticized for sharing it, for quote unquote waiting too long and all the other stuff like that. It's a touchy situation, and the fact that you did this basically to come to the aid of an embattled candidate who's had, like he said himself, 40 years of allegations against them. That's a lot of years for people to keep saying that you're like a creepy, dirty old man for something not to be real about it. But you're coming to the aid trying to discredit the media.
Right. And that's another thing. This whole, I'm exposing the corruption and bias in the news. You're literally not working for, but working in the favor of a politician. That's about as working in the favor of a politician to fuck with the news, which is supposed to be a separate entity in our country. That's about as corrupt as they can get. Like, I don't know why they feel like they're on some moral high ground. Not at all. This is some shit you feel like you'd read in like some crazy book or see in a movie or some shit of some people trying to pull. This is ridiculous.
And it's more notable to pay attention to who is doing this. James O'Keefe has been a habitual liar since he's created this company. He's been caught numerous times doing things like this and coming up with scenarios that he's thrown out false accusations and information, been caught on social media, YouTube, and he's received donations from, guess who? Donald Trump, through the Trump Foundation. So it's like, you want us to believe you when you're calling and pointing the finger at other people being disingenuous and lying, but your resume is very, very shaky, sir.
Yeah.
So how trusted of a source are you?
The sad thing is he probably has followers. I mean, he has. I assume some people outside of the Trump Foundation donate to him, so he probably has some people wrapped around his finger as far as believability and shit goes. If he's able to sustain a company, it's
Yeah,
and his connection to Trump's money is just another layer of how corrupt and gross this situation feels in general.
yeah,
And
it's
him and Moore himself seem to feel like they're being unfairly attacked. Do you feel like this attack on this dude is unfair? I mean, maybe you could argue that we shouldn't have heard as much about it until some ruling came out on it. I don't know.
well, no, because in the Washington Post they were very clear and concise when they reported this. They were like, when it comes to stories in which we're asked to be confidential about, but we find out that the information is discreditable and that there's something disreputable about it, we're not held to secrecy. We need to let people know that this is not true and that we don't support this because that could lead to people thinking, okay, well, maybe the Washington Post were embarrassed that they almost got caught in this operation. It's like, no, we're letting you know we're aware of this situation. Yes, we did bring this lady in to see if she had something credible for a story, and it turned out not to be true. And it wasn't like we had a part in the setup, you know. So I commend them for like, making sure to, back up their part of the story so they don't get it. Because we're in a time now where all media, I mean, media has been assaulted for years and years. It's nothing new about the conspiracy theories that the media is engineered to train us to believe what people want us to believe and all these different type of things. And we're not foreign to the media coming out and getting news stories wrong or over exaggerating certain things. It's happened throughout history. That's nothing new. But it seems like now there's this huge push to, I don't know. I kind of blame the YouTube like popularity that helped make people stop paying attention to traditional media outlets in a way, because
Hmm.
now everybody is a reporter in a sense. I mean, hell, we're doing a podcast talking about news. So you could make a claim that we're a part of the media if we want, if you want to. Um,
Certainly
but it's
could.
like everybody has become the talking boards and the sources, and everybody has become this. It kind of does marginalize how you feel about mainstream media because they have to work extra harder and occasionally have to dip low. We were just talking about how, again, the CNN being the Fox News of the left and stuff like that, because they have done some things that have been kind of suspect and shaky themselves. But in a way, it's kind of what people have been digesting over the years because of how, like, now information travels. I mean, Twitter is the hotbed for a lot of news, which is weird.
Yeah. Yes, it is. To the listeners out there, I was being a little sarcastic when I said, CNN is the Fox News of the left. They have their flaws, but let's not get crazy. Um, I remember you and I once had a discussion about the effects of social media on people's, I don't want to say intelligence, but it was somewhat related to this. And I remember disagreeing with you a little bit at the time, saying, it wasn't as bad and that people have always kind of sought out, self-affirming information. Should they, whatever they already believe, they would already kind of try and find that information. And I do still believe that to some degree, but I have come around and I will say that there are several flaws with the way we're using the technology now. And part of it is how fucking fast it travels on Facebook and Twitter and all that shit. So I see people share, if not articles that they haven't read, then just memes. Like they'll just spit out all this information, not verified, talking about it like they're experts on the subject. Usually without sources. It could come from some not reputable source, or again, it could just be a meme, which is one of the biggest problems. Is I see people sharing memes as though they're verified news articles from a trusted source. This shit travels way too fast, and I've seen on several occasions where something was obviously bullshit. Nobody seemed to bother to try to verify it. With the power of the internet, it would take 2 seconds to let you know that that was bullshit. People don't check, and even if they do check, it spreads too fast to deal with. I remember some fucking Twitter image going around on my Facebook. What was it? It was this like white girl or something, and she was like talking shit about some dude, and people were essentially saying that it was like an attack on white people. So I went and found this girl's Twitter, and lo and behold, it was just a joke. She said it several times. She was pissed off that this image was circulating again because she already said it was a joke on several occasions, and nobody bothered to even check into this person to see if that shit was legit. I did it in like 2 minutes and found out that it was bullshit. But I noticed that this thing spread like wildfire. Like it had tens of thousands of shares. The comment section was on fire. People were talking about this hatred of white people going on in America. This shit spreads way too fast to deal with properly. That's one of the issues with this. There's no real filter to get rid of this shit, and it goes too fast for you to even catch it. So I will admit that I was a little bit wrong in our past discussions.
I wouldn't say that you were wrong because, I mean, you should feel like people are willing to seek out, verification and confirmation of certain, especially something that could be, big socially, have social impact, things like that. Me growing up in the quote unquote age of oppression of information to the people, because a lot of people feel like, back in the 80s and 90s, that was all it was just a snow job because the internet wasn't as big as it was. It wasn't as, accessible and all that. So that's where you get a lot of the conspiracy theories, the Illuminati and stuff like that from that era where, things were kind of pretty much, if you didn't see it on TV or in the newspaper, probably didn't know about it, But, I say it all the time, the internet is a very powerful and resourceful thing, and it's a blessing, but it can be a curse because, like you said, things go so fast. People are willing to pick up stuff and just go with it so quick. It's like, if you don't sit and catch your breath a little bit, you're going to find yourself believing in something that can be really, really detrimental to not only the person or the people that it's about, but to you too, because how credible are you in a lot of people's eyes if you're willing to believe everything you see on the internet?
Probably a little too credible. But I guess I'll refine with what I said, because I think my original argument back then was people already had this type of behavior in them. So I guess what I will say now is that I think they have had that type of behavior, but the internet is like pouring gas on that fire. It makes it a million times worse.
Yeah.
The consequences are far more obvious and fast happening. And I don't know what people do about that. I know people are trying to hold like Facebook to task over, the whole Russia's fake memes and shit scandal, but I don't know what the fucking obvious answer to that situation is either. So
it's going to be interesting seeing how things break down. Speaking of the internet, net neutrality is back in the news. Aren't you guys happy that we're going to be fighting this battle once again? This is the third straight year that we've had to deal with this mess since they instituted net neutrality laws. It's crazy that they're still pushing to get rid of this. If you don't know, basically net neutrality were a set of laws that were set in place so that we would be ensured a free and open internet where ISP providers wouldn't be able to dictate as far as what content that we were able to get, or at least gate it behind paywalls and things like that. But of course, under this administration, They want to roll that back. So I forget what is his name, head of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. What's his name? Ajit Pai wants to have a vote so they can repeal those laws because he believes it would be more fair to companies if they didn't have so many restrictions on how they carry about their business on the internet, which is a total like bullshit line because net neutrality actually was put in place to ensure that businesses can operate freely without having to worry about the gatekeepers of internet traffic, manipulating
I,
how they operate.
I assume he's in bed with the ISPs or something because they're probably the only ones who should care about that.
What did they say this guy used to do? I think he was actually working for. Don't. I gotta look now because I honestly think that he actually did work for one of those companies or at least something like that.
Why are you looking at that? I will say, you brought up at first that this is like the third or so straight year of dealing with this. And I remember feeling that same issue. It's somewhat demoralizing because it's like unanimously, pretty much as a country, we say we don't want this shit, and here they come with it
He worked
yet
for
again.
Verizon. How funny! He worked for Verizon.
Well, there's your dirty connection. But yeah, the fact that we have to keep dealing with this over and over again. Why? Who the fuck wants this? Nobody wants this. And yet they keep pushing this on us. And it is a bit of a fear that it might happen at some point out of just sheer determination and ruthlessness and what the fuck ever else. Like, we shouldn't have to keep dealing with this same situation over and over again. We said no. This guy is like an abuser or something. He just comes and starts grabbing us, and we said no, and he just, grabs us by the pussy anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, and see, my thing is, it's not just us, the consumer, saying no. You have major corporations, like in the article that I pulled for this, a new letter was written because letters have been written every time this has happened by major internet companies, not major internet companies per se, but major companies, period. For instance, in this article, they mentioned Airbnb, Reddit, Shutterstock, Tumblr, Essay, and Twitter all wrote a bunch of letters. I think last week, Amazon and a couple of other major markets actually wrote letters too, and Netflix, things like that, was like, yeah, we're comfortable with the way that internet business runs. We don't necessarily want this. And I think honestly, if I have to look, because I remember actually, which shocked the shit out of me, seeing Comcast saying that they don't necessarily want net neutrality to be ended, which
Really?
is amazing because
I remember looking to see if there was an ISP who agreed. I didn't see anybody off the top of my head.
I can't remember if it was Comcast and maybe Google, because they do the fiber now. But I believe there was a major ISP that was like, yeah, we didn't ask you to do this. Not that they wouldn't accept it, because it would give them leeway to do things like, say you're a gamer, and you know how a lot of things now are digitally connected with games, lots of patches, things like that, what have you. A lot of people like to get digital content. Well, this will allow a Comcast to do what they've been doing, but in a more obscene way, which is to throttle your internet. But to be explicitly specific on what they target, they can actually say PSN causes too much traffic or Xbox Live causes too much traffic. So we're going to assess a fee to these companies to access, or they lose priority to bandwidth. They basically let them have a license to negotiate with these companies whether or not they want their consumers access to this stuff, or just simply turn the power down on these companies' access to their consumers, and make it so that if you're trying to watch Netflix, like a lot of us has Netflix and stream a lot of content, Well, guess what? Now it's going to be super slow, super messed up in quality. And what's your option? Well, you can go and get cable because cable has on demand. And guess who the cable companies are? They're the ISP providers, the Time Warners, the Verizons, the Comcast. Those are the people who would stand to benefit because cable TV's been dying for a while. Hell, the form of cable TV I got isn't even cable TV. I stream PlayStation View. This shows you how much people don't like the cord.
I use Sling.
Yeah,
Combined with like Netflix and other shit, I guess.
exactly. You have Netflix, you have Hulu, you have Sling, you have PlayStation View, you have it's another one out there. I forget the name of it, but you have all these different options out there for people. Hell, YouTube now lets you stream cable TV through a subscription-based program. All these different options that are cheaper, more efficient, and more convenient for their users because they allow a better level of access to their users. This has hurt cable companies in the long run, and this is just one step away from that whole push also to have internet become a major utility and actually be something that is provided to people at a reasonable rate and in mass quantities, because there's still places in this country that don't have internet or don't have reliable internet and things like that.
But that was one of his arguments, wasn't it? That by doing this, it would cause more people to invest in, I guess, the expansion of internet and bring it to more Americans or some shit like that. Like, he had some ridiculous argument about how this would help provide more internet to Americans in general because, I don't know, investors would be more willing to invest in this type of shit. It sounded like bullshit to me, but he did at least seem to argue for that.
Yeah, and it makes even less bullshit when you look at a company like Google, who's been pushing their Google Fiber program. I mean, you can get Google Fiber now in spots of Idaho that you've never heard of. And they're trying to push it into major markets, but somehow there seems to be a pushback by the other providers of this because Google Fiber is a more efficient and cheaper means of getting internet, and its goal is to spread internet throughout the United States at a more affordable rate. Right. So so you can't make that argument when you got a company out here that's actually trying to do such things, bring that technology to the masses, but it's getting pushed against.
I can't believe we're here with this shit again. And I think I might have mentioned, I think this might have come up last week, but yet another one of Trump's fucking guys. And yet people said, what's the big deal if Trump's in office? What could possibly happen? He's one dude. It seems like a lot of times when we bring up a name that isn't Trump causing a problem nowadays, they're still tied to Trump, which is almost impressive considering he's not even been in office a year.
Yeah, just like the last article that I sent to you about the lawsuit that's brewing to block the White House from naming a consumer watchdog, because basically what happened was the current consumer watchdog, he was stepping down and he named his successor, which previously had been their right to do. It's kind of been like a time-honored tradition since they established that anyway, because you want to kind of keep this separate from a political party choosing, because consumer rights are very important, and it's good to have an entity that's kind of outside. It's just like the Justice Department is meant to be independent of the legislature, because you don't want the leader of the country dictating what the Justice Department do. Guess what we have right now, by the way. Anyway, so this is one of those type of positions where it's just like making sure to watch out and make sure that the government and all these other businesses, large businesses, aren't taking advantage of the public. But Trump decided, I'm naming the head of the Consumer Watchdog Group. And he appointed, of course, one of his friends, Mulvaney, who I forget what his former job was. It was something. He as far as like what his job was before he was appointed this, he was Trump's budget director. So that should tell you something. Um, right there alone. And it's been a big mess because he showed up to work on the same day as the guy who was appointed by the former Watchdog head, and they've been having this like weird email spat and sending out emails. The employees are confused as to who was in charge, and now the legal system is getting into this, and it's kind of a big mess. But again, what isn't this what we should expect from this administration?
This guy's used to be able to hire whoever the fuck he wants. Yeah.
He honestly, and I think that's why he always seems to be in front of Andrew Jackson's photo. Because another thing that Andrew Jackson was famous for was kind of creating or spearheading that idea of the spoil system. You know, the same to the victor goes the spoils. Because Andrew Jackson, that's what he did. When he won, he hired all his boys to run things. He got former generals and former drinking buddies and people he gambled with to run the government with him, and to like basically set policies and dictate things the way that he wanted it, because in a way that he knew that no one would oppose him. Andrew Jackson basically probably thought of himself as a king, which sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, and I know some people, probably didn't want me to bring the conversation back to Trump since we were just talking about what's his name, Pie. But it's an important point. Like, people kept arguing that this guy coming into office would be benign. I think most of the stories in which we talked about somebody else over the last whatever number of episodes all had a tie to this motherfucker. Like, the fact that he's been in office less than a year, yet all these names coming up always seem to tie right back to him, should alarm you a lot.
Yeah,
and
and that's why
how dangerous a president can be.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring up the topic of net neutrality and consumer watchdog thing as the main topic, because this is a very critical point, in my opinion, in this country. We have not seen, maybe in a long time, at least not in my recent history, a president that has built a structure based on mostly selfish business practices. Most of his constituents and his people in leadership positions are business buddies, are people who are about making money for themselves and making money for their rich buddies, not necessarily into the idea of creating a financial structure in which this country can thrive, which everybody in this country can have the possibility of thriving. It's making the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because they were just talking about the tax bill the other day, where they were saying, like, we're going to add possibly $1.5 trillion in debt to the national deficit, as well as possibly $18 billion will be lost for people in lower income and from middle to lower incomes if these tax laws are passed, things like that. And it's like the gap, they're making the gap grow bigger. There's already a big enough gap between those. The middle class used to be something. I know growing up, middle class was what you aspired to be. You at least wanted to be middle class, because that meant that you were able to, appreciate some of the better things in life while still be able to maintain the ability to afford to pay for, make a living for yourself, pay your bills and whatnot. Now, the middle class is a joke. The middle class has been totally blurred. It used to be the middle class, and sure, these were simpler times, but if you made $50,000 to $60,000, that was something to aspire for. Now, that's something you hope for. You wish that you could make that much money just so you could stay afloat and not necessarily live well like you used to.
Yes. Yeah, this thing coming back up now, makes me more nervous than it did before because he's in office and he has his fucking guys all over the place. I'm in an uncomfortable position with this motherfucker. I feel vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm not saying like, yeah, they're gonna succeed and do whatever they want with this neutrality issue, but it's a precarious position to be in now, especially with these motherfuckers here. Makes me nervous.
Yeah,
I,
I can't blame you. Because it's just like if this goes, what else goes? You know what I mean?
yes.
He's already gotten rid of the right for people to bring um, lawsuits against credit companies, which
Mm-hmm.
people feel are doing practices that hurt them, hurt the consumer. He's basically put a wall against them. It's like, nope, you can't come at us. We could fuck you for your money, and you can't do shit about it. The push for this tax bill and things like that. Um, the willingness, like today, when he sent out that tweet telling people he don't think that there's going to be agreement, so we need to just shut the government down. And now, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer had to react like, "Yo, it's fine. We're not going to meet with you to talk to this because clearly you're trying to sabotage any attempt to keep a functioning government for the sake of saving some money and putting it back into like certain other people's pockets. So we're going to actually try to go talk to the Republicans directly, and hopefully they'll be sensible people because you clearly just,
Man, I guess I missed that tweet.
yeah, he literally said that there would be no negotiating a government, a deal to keep the government running. And yeah, he pissed Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi off. They were like, yeah, well, we're not, they literally said, we're not going to a meeting that's just going to be for show then. If you don't think that we could work out a deal, why bother come talk to you? We'll go talk to people who we think are willing to work this out so that we can keep our government in operation.
That's a terrible statement. You don't trust that the president can be a functioning adult enough to have a conversation, but
Exactly.
not a wrong statement per se. And that's another issue with this whole administration. Like they're attacking important things from every direction. You can't focus on this net neutrality thing because you have that fucking tax issue coming up, and everything else his administration is doing or tried to undo from Obama's era. Like they're all over the fucking place. It's really hard to keep focused on any one particular issue with this maniac at the wheel.
Yeah, and that's why the net neutrality thing is really scary for me because, like I just mentioned, the whole credit bureau thing. This is one of those things that could end up slipping through the cracks if we don't pay attention because he's sown so much chaos all over the place with so many different issues that this can be we can be at a point where the repeal of net neutrality becomes a reality. Having a former businessman as the head of consumer watchdog group of our consumer watchdog group, who would be willing to side more with businesses over consumers, that could happen. This can end with him being in charge. There's a lot of different things because he's running this country as if it was one of his businesses. He's just maneuvering, shifting, double talking his way into deals that can add more money to the pockets of people. It's just like people were talking about the tax bill. One of the biggest notes of that was, we talked about this last week, I think, by repealing the teacher credit, the $250 credit that teachers get, that people such as the head of education who own businesses can end up pocketing $2 billion just by taking money out of teacher. People who help build and structure our children's lives. I mean, teachers aren't just there just to teach, people lessons. Let's be honest. Teachers are kind of our surrogate parents in a way too. And he's wanted to take money out of these people's lives to infuse it into big business life.
Right. I don't know if we actually talked about that last week, but I did remember seeing that, and it's another example of what I was talking about. Like, who the fuck wants that? Like, I have a hard time imagining even the most, dickish of conservatives is like willing to kick a teacher in the balls like that. These are not that we really give teachers the appreciation we should in this country. I don't know why they even. If you choose to be a teacher in this country, there's something wrong with you, but God bless you, I guess.
Yeah, I know a couple of teachers, and I feel for them. I mean, one of them, she's like, I feel like I just need to retire because it's so thankless, and we get abused so much. And I was listening to this guy talk about how his wife used to be a teacher and stuff like that, and she was saying how like taking that $250, that means something because to be quite honest, when you're a teacher, especially in the lower levels, public schools, $250 doesn't even touch the amount of money that you spend to get supplies and things for your students, to make sure that they have pens, pencils, notebooks and things like that, because there's still a lot of parents out there who can afford that stuff for their kids, and teachers try to pitch in and help so their students can excel and learn and have the tools they need. They were like, teachers probably spend $2,500 a year to help out, out of their hard-earned money, which isn't a lot, by the way. Teachers is one of the poorest, which always fucking blows my mind that teachers are one of the poorest paid positions in this country. The people that like are helping us get to a point where we can get degrees and get these jobs that we really want don't get paid shit for it. They break their backs, they like fucking bleed their hearts out, and they get dumped on, and now you want to dump on them again? Really?
It's a really minor, because I've seen like high school teachers who have like second jobs in stores and shit, and it didn't occur to me till I was older, like how is it possible that the people responsible for shaping the minds of future generations can't afford to have one fucking job? I mean, and even that, like people are willing to spend their own money to make sure that America's kids have what they need to learn. And you want to get in the way of that? I've always said I try to be as, fair and even charitable as possible. I do think that's how people should be, but that's just fucked up. I can't, there's no good way to look at that. That's completely unacceptable. And none of us in this country should accept that, should look at that as like, well, I was going to try to make up some reasonable counter argument, but I can't even do that. It's fucked up on every level.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing about this whole situation we're in, is that it's hard. You want to try to be fair, and I think that's one thing that people don't seem to get, especially people who come in defense of his behavior and his administration's operation tactics. It's not that we don't want to be fair. Like, hell, I was with Dave Chappelle when he was on Saturday Night Live. It's like, hey, let's see if this guy is actually going to do the right by us. Like, he's president now. We got to at least give him sort of the benefit of the doubt and like let him fuck up before we say that he's going to fuck up.
I wasn't.
Yeah, at least, well, I can't say that I was totally 100% behind that, but I understood the reasoning and I understood why people would feel that way. But now, you're a damn fool if you still like Pink. I'm sorry, you're a hell of a singer, but you're dumb. We need to like still give him a chance. Nah, boo. We can't do that because it's at a point now where it's just like he's not even trying to let us give him a chance. He keeps doing things that he's punishing us for no reason. He's punishing consumers, teachers, small businesses. He's punishing the little guy for the big guy, and that's just not acceptable. And it
blatantly,
yeah. And it's like, where does it stop? Where do people say enough is enough? When the Congress finally say, you know what, as much as we would love to have this whole Republican agenda push, we got to take a step back and like right, the wrongs that are going on in this country. Like, I understand you want to do what you want to do for your side, but somewhere more morality has to really come into play. something has to be gnawing at you enough to say, yeah, this is too much even for me. You know what I mean?
I will say that this has really proven out the strength of party loyalty because if Trump's behavior, even as a conservative or Republican or whatever, under his orange umbrella, hasn't, made you rebel a little bit, then the ties of party unity are strong because this guy's a walking fucking disaster in many ways. And I know people out there, if you're either a Trump supporter or just one of those complete cynics who, says fuck politics in every way possible, don't want to hear me say that because they think I'm being unfair. I pride myself on being as fair as humanly possible. This guy's a walking dumpster fire. I'm saying that objectively. Everything about him is fucking insane. And his supporters' arguments are just objectively stupid. Even that thing I'd mentioned with the Warren, this is becoming a really common tactic with them to just kind of obfuscate and then try to redirect to something else that's just not relevant. Their argument style is bad. Most of their arguments are completely idiotic, and the ones that aren't idiotic are just not relevant most of the time. And that's me being as objective as humanly possible, but if I was being any kinder than I am, I would just not be telling the truth about the situation we're in.
Yeah, no, it's very, very hard to find a silver lining to any of this because it's just, I don't know. It's disheartening. It's very, very disheartening that this is a lot being allowed to go on. And we honestly need to take a look in the mirror and well, some of us do. I don't feel like I need to because I'm sitting here screaming at you people trying to get you to take a look in the mirror and realize that you need to be more be louder, be more angry. Shit. Scream louder, but scream at the appropriate things. It's like things like net neutrality, consumer rights, all that. Scream at that. Stop fucking screaming at EA because they want to sell you a loot box, for Christ's sake, and concentrate on something that can actually affect your goddamn life.
I mean, but to be fair to that, the overwhelming weight of Trump's presence, I can certainly see how it's making people want to avoid not just not getting into fights, but his Trumpiness is certainly overwhelming and because I mentioned the way he's attacking all these different things at once. Keep it up with this motherfucker. He's if you have 10 trending things, I guarantee he's 8 of them. Keeping up with this motherfucker is insane. It's very hard. And when it's as disheartening and depressing as it is, I'm not saying people should shut down, but I can see why you would. And I can see why many people have.
I could see that because, hey, my hair wasn't this great a year ago, people. Know this. It really wasn't.
Yeah, even that trending thing, I'm not even joking. I swear I remember one time on Twitter, he must have been 6 or 7 of the trending things because he'd say something about North Korea and then he's doing this shit with the taxes and then he's tweeting this shit and you have these other guys connected to him doing other stuff. This dude's picture shows up in my mind on the internet on my screens every fucking day, several times a day.
Yeah,
I definitely understand how it's overwhelming.
I'm not kidding about this gray shit. I honestly believe that we as a country are now experiencing what it's like to be president. You know how they say a president ages faster once he gets in office? I think we're all about 10 to 15 years older than we were a year ago. Seriously. Because he's just wearing us the fuck out mentally, in my opinion. It's disgusting. It's very disgusting. I swear I'm gonna become a full-blown alcoholic before his term is over.
Real quick, the teacher thing. I know that's not the main topic, but
no, it's part of it. It definitely is.
Goddamn upsetting. Look, we need to stand up for our teachers because I feel like I've heard some of them look enviously at the way other countries' teachers get treated. And I can't blame them for that. I remember my English high school teacher, she taught like AP English and shit. She wrote like this heartbreaking letter or Facebook thing on pretty much just the state of how teachers are treated and shit. And I wish I had saved it because it was genuinely heartbreaking. But I was like, yeah, I don't understand how people go into teaching in this country. And there should be many incentives because it's one of the most important jobs you can do. You know, I'm a software engineer, and I'm not going to argue that my job is anywhere near as important as what they're doing because they're really trying, at least, to build up the minds of our students, our kids, our future. It's one of, if not the most important jobs you can have. And it's one of the ones we don't appreciate at all in this country. I feel like people appreciate the garbage dude coming down and picking up the garbage way more. Not that you shouldn't. I love those motherfuckers. I don't want my garbage sticking up the place. That wasn't a shot at garbage people. I was just making an analogy, you know.
But no, it's true. There are a lot of people that we respect. I mean, shit. I think about how, again, back to the heroism thing, think about how we revere actors and athletes and things like that. But teachers, we just totally have really little reverence for, which is kind of sad because, again, where would these actors and athletes be and things like that if they didn't have those teachers in their lives? Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, it's not just, you know, conservatives or whatever in government. It's a general problem with the way we look at them. I remember I'd seen this article, I think it was a couple of years ago. This little girl, I think she was in like an English class or something, and one of the assignments was something like, you know, one of these worksheets where it was asking them to distinguish between, you know, facts and opinions. And I think one of them like referenced something about religion, and you know, the answer was opinion, and she put fact, and the teacher marked it wrong. And no, this wasn't like a religious class, or she wasn't making a religious point. It was just about the structure of the sentence. The way it was written made it an opinion, no matter what your religious conviction is. It was just, by definition, an opinion statement. This kid goes home. She, you know, talks to her mom. They raise this whole big stink. Fucking teacher has to apologize. The teacher gets in trouble and all that shit. You know, the school board apologizes and all that. And I remember sharing this out and commenting like on Facebook. I said something like, when are we going to stop throwing our fucking teachers under the bus? She was just teaching English. She didn't do anything wrong. This was not a religious argument they were having. Some little girl went and complained to her mom. And instead of defending the teachers, everybody backed down to this little girl and her stupid mother. When are we going to defend our teachers? And to my shock, people came at me saying that I was, you know, religiously intolerant and that the teacher should have been fired.
No, she shouldn't have.
I couldn't believe it, but somebody really made the argument that that teacher should have been fired over that, not just, you know, slap on the wrist or have to apologize. Like, I'm pretty sure she had to apologize, and she was Christian, by the way, if I remember that article correctly. So she wasn't like me, like a dirty atheist who was probably going to make that point. But
right,
the absolute unwillingness to defend teachers in the face of unruly kids or spoiled parents or the government is shocking. We refuse to defend them on any point. And even here, we refuse to even give them money for buying our own kids shit. Like, where does it stop?
Yeah, it's funny because you just reminded me of a story that happened while I was in elementary school, like 5th or 6th grade. There was this kid that was in our school. He was just a horrible kid. We knew him in the neighborhood because his family was basically like that family that you just stayed away from because all they wanted to do was fight and argue among themselves and with other people. And, you know, their kids got into a lot of shit. They'd be caught trying to steal from stores and trying to rob people on the street. It's like they were like really, I mean, and this is like when this kid is like 10 years old. He was that type of bad seed type of kid. And he would cut up in class. And we had this teacher, I'll never forget her name, Miss Stringfellow. Loved Miss Stringfellow because she didn't take no shit from nobody. She was one of those classic old school teachers that believed in, you know, if your kid does something wrong, you need to punish them. They need to be held accountable and things like that. So she punished this kid, kicked him out of class because he was cursing at her and trying to fight people. And she was like, "No, you can't come back. You know, you're disrupting. Everybody else wants to learn. You're not trying to learn, and you're not, you know, doing anything but causing, problems for everybody else. So you got to go. Sending you to the office and let them deal with it." Well, he did like you said. This girl did. He goes to his mom, who again was just like a horrible person herself, and complains and told him what the teacher did. His mom actually came up to the school and threatened to beat the shit out of the teacher right in front of the entire class. I mean, she's standing there cursing, threatening a teacher in front of a bunch of 10-year-olds. Of course, Miss Stringfellow being who she wasn't taking that. She was just, she didn't, to her credit, she didn't go at the lady, but she calmly sat there and told her about herself and dared her to try something. And the lady could clearly see that this lady wasn't taking no shit, and that she wanted to be froggy and elite. She was going to come back like missing a couple of things, so she just walked away with her kids screaming, yelling, fuck you, you're going to get fucked up and all that. Nothing never happened, by the way. She never came back to the school. The kid ended up being suspended for a while. He almost got expelled, but I think he did get expelled because I don't remember him coming back to school that year, to be quite honest. And everything is, so it's like the right thing happened, but again, nowadays you don't see that happening as much. They will try to take teachers' jobs for doing what the Stringfellow did, which was the right thing. Which, to your point with the story with the little, it's just crazy. Why have we stopped defending teachers? Why are we stopped protecting their rights and things like that? Why is it so much so now that parents can, kids can disrupt things so much just by complaining about the smallest things?
Yes, I will. There's certainly been a shift in the way we look at kids. An expansion of our respect toward them and their rights and stuff, and so it's largely good, but it has gone way too far, and this is one of the arenas in which it's a problem. These kids have power over their teachers in a way that they just fucking shouldn't. And I do remember, like, after somebody, that story I told, after somebody came at me with that whole, I was being religiously intolerant, I made the point that while my point was not based on the religion, this is another reason why teachers matter. This was a perfect opportunity for that little girl to learn that this thing is, as a matter of fact, an opinion. It was a perfect just learning opportunity, and that got flushed down the shitter because the kids' feelings were more important than facts. This is a problem with the way we think, not just about teachers, but about our education system in general. Like this, I don't know. I remember being very upset about that, but teachers are valuable because they are a source of information outside of the house. If, your parents want to tell you whatever religious shit they want inside the house, fine. But teachers do not work for parents directly. That's not how it works. They're not responsible to your parents. They're not responsible to the kids. They're responsible for disseminating information, handing out knowledge, teaching. That's what they're supposed to do. They're not there to make you happy. And we need to stop acting like they're the fucking servers at the restaurant that need to give us whatever we want. They need more autonomy, more respect, probably more money. Honestly, you should be able to make a living wage as a teacher, period.
Yeah, at least hazard pay on top of your regular pay. Jesus Christ.
People are going to come try to punch you in the mouth, apparently.
Right,
At least, oh shit. Fucking Roy Moore's voice just started playing in my ears, which is a beautiful voice, by the way. I'm glad that teacher at least had the emotional fortitude to deal with that, because I can certainly imagine some other teachers who would have broken down, and that would have made me sad.
Miss Stringfellow, she was a really good teacher. She definitely taught us a lot about respect and things like that, as well as the lessons we needed to learn. I wonder where she is right now because I would hug her. Her and there was another teacher who a lot of us thought was mean. She actually, in hindsight, she wasn't mean. It's just that us as kids, you know how kids are, disciplined and things like that are hard to.
Yeah.
You want to fight that, but yeah.
I was about to mention Trump's. I wonder what Trump feels about teachers, but then I remember that story where he apparently punched a teacher or something, didn't he? So
yeah, he swung at a teacher.
I guess we shouldn't be surprised by this whole "fuck you." You're not getting any money from us, you goddamn assholes behavior.
Yeah. On an off topic before we go off, could you stop Christmas right now, please? It ain't time yet. I was just like looking through the guide on my TV really quick to find something because TV is background noise to me. I really don't watch TV. But I noticed Rudolph the fucking reindeer is on right now. People, it is fucking November 28th. We ain't even get to the like 12 days of Christmas. Y'all are just, I've seen not only this, but I think Charlie Brown's Christmas has probably already been on. I know the Grinch has been on because after I think the Grinch was on Thanksgiving Day, to be quite honest, which blew my mind. Frosty the Snowman has been on. Like, people, I understand Christmas is a big deal, it's festive, blah blah blah. Could you let us digest the goddamn like Thanksgiving turkey yet? Like, we're not even over the leftovers of Thanksgiving.
I feel like you're late to the party. I saw Christmas decorations in Walmart before Thanksgiving happened. So.
Oh no, I saw them as soon as Halloween, the day after Halloween.
Yeah, you're right.
In a particular store, like the exact day after Halloween, they had all their Christmas decorations and candy on sale, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" It's November 1st. Thanksgiving hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, trying to make that Christmas money early, man. But like, I just want to say, like, fuck those movies, dog. Like, I know they're classics, but I'm sick of those fucking movies. Can we get some new 2017 Christmas?
That's the thing.
Like,
kids aren't into those things. Like, I don't think anymore. Are they?
You're probably right, and that's probably why we should stop. Because like these people who, how old is that fucking Charlie Brown thing or that Rudolph?
Oh, they were just talking about that. It came out 1970 something.
For fuck's sake, can we just stop?
And that's the one thing I will always watch is Charlie Brown's Christmas because I do love that dearly. One of my favorites. I'm a big Charlie Brown fan though, so
get that shit on DVD. Fuck you. Stop showing it out.
I do actually have it on DVD.
Keep it there. Like, I remember watching all these holiday specials growing up, and it's not just because I'm older that I'm tired of them. They're fucking old. Like, the fact that we're not making new ones should tell you, let's stop this shit. I don't know.
They're there because, one, there's a lot of people like me, old folks, who love the classics.
Fuck you guys. Watch it on your own shit.
But again,
you motherfuckers.
But again, they're not, like you said, they're not coming out with this stuff. They're not trying to make anything new. So the fuck are you going to show for Christmas? You're going to have to, you're going to get like It's a Wonderful World. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life. Over and over and over again. You're going to get a Christmas Story 24 hours every Christmas, every time, because no one's really trying to make anything holiday, like, really. And the few holiday movies that have been made over the years, even they're played out now. I mean, I'm sick of Elf. You know what I mean?
I just imagine, one day maybe a woman will love me and I'll have like a kid or something, and I'm going to try to show them one of these dumbass movies, and they're going to be like, why don't you just put me up for adoption if you're going to do this every year? And I'm going to be proud, but it's going to prove my point that this is nobody cares about this except people who remember watching it when they were kids. Like,
Santa Claus is coming to town. That should always be played. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
have to.
This shit drives me crazy. I have a major disdain for nostalgia. in most
So, okay,
cases.
if you could get new Christmas stuff, what would be your ultimate new, like, who would you like to see make a new Christmas special? What cartoon?
I mean, I think all the common would still do it. What are they even cartoons still out?
Yeah, Cartoon Network still exists, even though they
But they don't really
generally
show new
only show goddamn Teen Titans like all day
kinds
long.
go.
I swear, when I was in a hospital, that was the only thing that was on TV, and it just drove me the fuck insane. Like, how many times are you gonna show the same episodes of Teen Titans? And it's not even a good Teen Titans. It's just like corny, juvenile, stupid Teen Titans.
Hey
Where
man,
they
that
act
shit is good.
goofy.
Fuck you.
No, no, no. I like the beginning Teen Titans when they used to take a more serious lean, and Slade was the main villain and all that. Now they just do dumb shit. They do fart jokes and like
That's good
got
shit, man.
fucking beast
It's good, clean fun.
belly talking to people. And like, man, get the fuck out of here with that shit. You fucking superheroes. Why are you acting like this?
It's good fun. You're just a crabby old fucker. I don't know how to answer that question because there isn't as much variety as there used to be. Like with Cartoon Network, they just seem to fall in love with one show and then they can't fucking stop. Before this, it was probably like Steven Universe or Adventure Time or some shit. Like,
Right.
did they're like WWE with John Cena. Like, once they find that motherfucker, that's it. So I don't really have enough options to really answer that question.
See, so
But I still
I have
say
to learn to love Charlie Brown Christmas. I'm telling you, watch it. You know, as much as you say you hate it, you know you love it.
I sure as shit. That makes me hate Christmas. We're not having Christmas in my house. That's it. I've decided now. I don't have a wife or kids or anything, but I've decided well in advance. Fuck Christmas. We're gonna make us some Kwanzaa bullshit.
So if you guys want to at Cardiac Sumo on Twitter, feel free to tweet him all the Christmas classic clips that you can. Make sure to include Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer.
See, I used to like that song and now I can't stand it.
Have you ever seen the cartoon?
Many times because they showed every
okay.
fucking
So
year.
please send that to him so he can enjoy it.
I remember one year, I remember seeing that shit, and I remember saying out loud, I was like, when is this bitch just gonna die? When they hit her with the fucking reindeer? Like, I think in my crabby teenage years, I was like, one of these times, they just need to like change this show. So
It really actually doesn't make any sense because in real life, if Grandma got ran over by a reindeer, she'd probably be dead with the hooves, just like beating her in the head.
Gotta be.
But no, she just loses her memory and wanders around aimlessly until the family finds her. Apparently,
the next one should be that she goes after Santa for sexual assault.
I mean, if she's in Billy Bob Thornton's movie, Bad Santa, that could be true.
I will say on that sexual assault thing, we talked about it last episode. I think this shit it's a serious problem. I saw some opinion piece by, I think it was the New York Times earlier, talking about, I think it was called The Limits of Believe All Women or something like that. And they were essentially talking about, I don't know how much of a thing this really is, but this idea that just believing all women on faith no matter what is a problem. I don't know if you saw that article or
yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I say give people benefit of the doubt, but don't necessarily write it off as like gospel, because someone made a good point like about the Al Franken thing, about how part of the problem with his situation is that this lady was a mentor of Sean Hannity, and that Rob Stone had pre-tweeted that something's going to come out to bite Al Franken in the ass. It kind of gives that lean that there may have been some, conspiring going on for this. And the fact that she was willing to accept his apology and things like that, and she's not really pushing the issue, it just makes it all seem like it was something that was done just to make sure to get the ball rolling and put it out there and discredit him purposely, without necessarily actually just wanting to, with the whole Me Too campaign, wanting to just voice her opinion on the matter, and finally like, get this off her chest type of thing. There are going to be situations where there are going to be people who are going to lie. Let's be honest. Not all these allegations are going to be true. Some of them are going to, not to necessarily diminish it, but they're going to be kind of less offensive as people might think. Like, he blew a kiss at me, and yeah, he shouldn't be doing that, but should we fire him because he blew a kiss at somebody? No, type of deal.
There's a serious problem in this country about going after people's jobs. Like,
Oh no, everybody. Anytime you do something, you either want to get someone fired or you want to sue them. That is the way we are.
they have no chill zone in this goddamn country.
No, it's not like you can't. The redemption is hard these days. Redemption and forgiveness. It's like we'll redeem and forgive you once we get our pound of flesh, basically.
Yes, I brought that up because I'd only just read that opinion piece probably about an hour or so before we started, so I hadn't really had time to digest and really think about it too hard. And I don't know to what extent people are taking this whole, believe all women sort of thing. I haven't seen that as a phrase per se, but I do feel a little something there. Women have for a long time just not been believed, even when there was irrefutable proof that something went wrong. They've just been kind of dismissed, and we should obviously fight against that. That's fucking wrong. But I see people who seem to kind of fall in line with this, just believe them no matter what. And this, along with some other things, I feel like people aren't embracing the idea of how we deal with law. This whole innocent till proven guilty. You prefer to, I can't remember what the phrase is, like not jail. What the fuck is that phrase?
What, the innocent until proven guilty thing?
No, it's like we prefer to, release 10 guilty men than jail one innocent one. It's something like that.
Right, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, I can't remember the exact phrase, but this idea that we lean toward, wanting real evidence and proof before we really damn somebody, especially on heavy sentences, or just wanting to verify shit in general. Like, I do fear a little bit that people don't seem to think it matters to actually prove shit out. I haven't seen it too much with this, so that's why I don't have a strong opinion on this at the moment, and I haven't thought about it very long. Which is why I wanted to pick your brain a little bit on that. But I do feel like some people's desire for evidence, at least in this type of thing, is starting to be lax, or they don't appreciate how it is we should come to punish people, I suppose. There was some woman who tweeted something like, they don't care if some innocent men fall in this dismantling of the patriarchy and stuff like that. It's an extreme claim.
Oh no, but you have to think some people just don't care who is caught up in the backlash of this. And I can understand you want to break the whole, inequality thing, but you can't be unfair. You always, because as unfair as you feel treated, you can't. It's kind of like I was saying about how some people look at different things in politics or in race relations, where a lot of people will push to not necessarily, have things made equal, but to get them to the situation where they can get payback. Right. They can kind of revenge and flip the tables and like, see, now this is how, now you see how it feels type of thing, which is a very dangerous way of approaching things, because you don't want to become what you hate, in my opinion. I see a lot of people kind of doing that in some cases, where they're like, once they get recognized and it's being acknowledged that they've been wrong, they kind of want that, again, pound of flesh, not necessarily just, fixing things so this will never happen again, and that we can avoid situations like this and have a better society. It's just mostly about, you wronged me, so now I need to, get my revenge type of thing.
I noticed the article. I see I guess it was a tweet by an Emily Linden with Teen Vogue or something. She said, I'm actually not at all concerned about innocent men losing their jobs over false sexual assault slash harassment allegations. If some innocent men's reputations have to take a hit in the process of undoing the patriarchy, that is a price I am absolutely willing to pay. To say that is to not understand how we should go about punishing motherfuckers is what I fear is becoming a popular sentiment with people.
No, that's just totally ignorant of her to say. Because you're willing to hurt people's lives to get the thing that you want the most. That's unacceptable, because aren't these men hurting innocent people's lives to get what they want?
Right.
So are you just as comfortable? So are you upset that these women were violated, or you just like see this as an opportunity for you to cash in? That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like you don't even have any regard for the women. It's like you might as well come out and say, oh yeah, and if a couple of women get like abused and raped and stuff like that, hey, this will just bring out the whole issue more and make it so we can push towards in the patriarchy. Why don't you say something like that? If you're willing to say it that way, you clearly have to feel the same way, the other way, in my opinion, because you don't. That's an inconsiderate like thing. That's not, as a human being, how you should feel about
I think
that.
I touched a little bit on this before. Like on one of the earlier podcasts, I don't see this too much as a problem yet, but this mindset is very commonplace for a certain subsection of I guess, feminist group in general. There's a certain more extreme faction of them that tend to talk like this, and you can tell because they tend to overuse the word patriarchy, in my opinion. But I am afraid of people like this getting carried away. And like you said, you see it with other social issues. You see black people, if we're talking about things like police brutality or something, there's a certain callousness toward how we should judge white people or cops per se. There's just this, well, fuck you if a couple of you good guys go down, whatever, it's worth it. And that's, if you think that, you're missing the point of why we should do this.
Yeah. That's pretty fucked up. Don't be that.
Yes,
don't be that person, people, please.
We all need to do better with how we treat women in our society, but that doesn't mean, as that article mentioned, like this whole, because you're not even treating them with respect anymore. You're just, I believe no matter what they say, they're perfect beings. You're not treating them like equals. You're still just treating them like women, just in a different, demeaning sort of way.
Yeah.
Gotta be more careful about how we talk about this sort of shit. But again, I don't think that's indicative of as the way we are looking at it right now. I just see that shit under the surface and it just creeps me out.
Yeah, no, that's sad. That's the sad thing about all this. Even for any topic that we talk about today, there's always that like part of the discussion, or that one small group that just has to find the worst way to put things out there. And it's kind of like with the tactics that they take with like Rob Moore and things like that. It's like, you kind of, by saying stuff like that, you're kind of helping those who want to discredit you, because now they can point and say, see, again, with the Pocahontas thing, see, she's just as bad as he is with her, Native American identity thing.
Right.
It's like, no, that's not that shouldn't be a part of the argument.
That's the reason I try to keep an eye on these under the surface kind of problematic sections, because I, in general, support, all these social issues. Like I said, I'm liberal in the sense that I'm progressive is what I really should say. I do believe that we should protect women's rights. We should believe them more than we certainly have in the past. We should do all that shit. But you have these subsections of these groups that are more extreme, and they're actually dangerous to progress in a lot of ways, because they illegitimize them. They make them look stupid. They often tend to support things that are just false or stupid. I mean, I bring those up because they are a danger to those groups, not because I disagree with those problems in general. Because I want to see those issues get resolved and succeed. And, and they're in the way of that. But
No, just to tie this a little bit back to the whole consumer thing. Apparently, a judge has ruled in Trump's favor to allow him to pick the Consumer Protection Agency's leader.
Goody.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. So, yeah, I guess we'll be talking about that more next week. Oh, fuck me. This country. Love this. Love this country.
Internet next week.
Ah, man. Yeah. Well, no, we have a little time. The vote's not until December 14th, so please, people, between now and December 14th, voice your opinion to whoever, your congressman, House of Representative members, everybody, petition, all that. Please, I mean, it may fall on deaf ears. Hopefully it won't, but yeah. Not trying is worse than trying. Believe me, it definitely is. All right, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. I don't think we were just as depressing as normal. Do you?
I'm never depressing. I'm a fucking bundle of sunshine. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay, Mr. Damn your religion and all of that. And no, actually, you were the worst today because you hate Christmas. You hate Charlie Brown. I have an issue with you now. That's a major. I can't believe you don't like Charlie Brown's Christmas. Oh my God, that's the most offensive thing that we've talked about today. I guarantee you.
Yeah, but
more offensive than a goddamn pedophile.
This dude always trying to go and kick that football and always falling for that same shit. Fuck that guy.
Well, I mean, he's a dumbass. It's the love of his hay. I mean, come on.
Fuck. I think this shot one dude.
Snoopy's cool. You know.
Fuck him.
And come on. Oh, damn. And Woodstock, really? Damn, you heartless bastard. Oh, my God.
Fuck the whole goddamn bottle.
You don't like the peanuts. I'm mad. I'm mad at that. You should love the peanuts. The peanuts, national treasure. Damn it. I won't hear this like fucking hierarchy. Actually, I'm gonna call fake news on this. God damn it. Fake news. All right. But anyway, that does it for this episode of The Reason Reborn. As always, you guys feel free to hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Black Magus. He's at Cardiac Sumo. I don't know what we're going to talk about to discuss you next week, but I guarantee you our president will give us something to talk about that'll discuss you. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time on The Reason Reborn.